Before the Discovery Channel's American Chopper premiered at the beginning of the year, the only people who had access to the world of motorbikes were clubs, motorcycle fanatics, and Hollywood actors who manufactured their appearance to look even more unpleasant than they really were. Motorbikes were utilized a lot and were considered rather great accessories. That was, of course, before the once tedious pastime became a way of life, thanks to Paul Teutul Senior. He was a metal worker who, shortly after leaving the service, founded a metal works company. His military service had left him with baggage and issues, but he overcame them by using weight training in his basement and rekindling his passion for vintage choppers. After that, he established Orange County Choppers at an important time, despite the fact that he and his family have struggled to understand how their company operates and the real story behind the project. Let's explore some of the lesser-known behind-the-scenes happenings that happened during the creation of the bikes. The bike building was originally intended to be rather small. Teutul said that he intended to build maybe 5-10 bikes a year, a claim. Of course, however, as demand grew, it expanded to include a lot more. He needed to worry about the metal works company, after all. He didn't stop there, however. Soon after, he founded Orange County Choppers and gave his son Daniel managerial responsibilities. Teutul had a total of 3 children: Daniel, Michael, his son Paul Jr. However, the father and the son had far more in common than they seemed to be, and they were unable to control their own feelings for very long. Many believe that the fights that appeared on television had been planned and controlled. In fact, they weren't, but the writers of the show thought they had a winner when they learned about some of the disputes that broke out between the father and son. They weren't incorrect, and regrettably, a lot of other people were only there to see the conflicts between the father and son duo. The Teutul family's relationship with the rest of the cast plummeted right after the show's first wave of success on the network. Before long, Paul Senior would fight with almost anyone, including Vincent DiMartino, their go-to technician. In due course, he would quit the program. Regretfully, DiMartino would not be the only one to surrender. Soon enough, Junior would run Paul Jr. Designs by himself. But it wouldn't happen until after one of the hottest and most contentious conversations ever seen on camera for the popular program. The show's first season concluded with the father-son bond eventually collapsing. Furious at Junior's lack of a work ethic, he promptly dismissed his son, and their cooperation abruptly ended. Of course, there was a lot of litigation between the parties. Claims were even filed by former cast members, but the father and son's parting was a touching and almost spontaneous affair. The TV scene was so unforgettable that it quickly became one of the most popular memes on the internet. In some counties, the disclosure of Paul Teutul Senior bankruptcy. His company was not generating the necessary amount of revenue. He hasn't lost everything since the company is still doing well, and when millionaires file for bankruptcy, it generally doesn't have the same impact on others who have less money. But at its height, the senior was forced to sell his home. After a series of futile attempts to work things out, Senior suffered a serious blow upon reading what his son had written about him in his autobiographical book, The Build Designing My Life of Choppers, Family, and Faith. When Junior allegedly labeled his father a monster in it, the rivalry that had occupied so much of their time seemed to never stop. Would they ever be able to agree on anything again? As a culture, we are aware that we like watching conflict in films, but the friction that developed between this company and this program on television was simply too genuine. As a consequence, the family separated and was estranged for 10 years. It undoubtedly had an impact on every one of them. They haven't had a chance to get back together and make up for lost time until the last 2 years. We wish them a very happy future and express our gratitude for providing us with such amazing motorcycles and for reviving our passion for choppers at a time when it was much needed. What happened to Paul Senior from American Chopper? Everyone's favorite motorcycle, the mechanics, Paul Teutul and his son Paul Jr., are restoring a 1951 Buick for season 12 of their hit show American Chopper. However, it hasn't been easy to bring this father and child back together. When American Choppers originally came out in 2003, its major focus was on the Teutul family, who worked together at their upstate New York firm, Orange County Choppers. The father-son team was well known for their different playing styles and frequent fights in front of the cameras. But after a violent argument, Paul Jr. was let off in 2008, which gave him the idea to start a competitor company named Paul Jr. Designs. It all began when Junior would often be late for work. Paul Senior said the following before to confronting his son. "It's been one thing after another with him, and I'm not going to let him get away with this shit anymore. I'm tired of seeing you being taken care of, you know. That's 8 to the fucking quarter. Everyone departs about 7, and you enter around 5 or 8. When will it stop? For crying out loud?" In defense of himself, Junior's father went on, "I don't really give a shit because at the end of the day, you know what matters? Everything gets done around here. Everybody is constantly at work. Every bike that has to be built is finished. And guess what? We work together. Without me, this place would be shit. It would catch fire and collapse." When his kid threw a chair into his father's workplace, Paul Senior fired him in front of all of their coworkers. Paul Senior fought to keep his son's 20% ownership stake in Orange County Choppers even after losing the case. Is American Chopper Paul Senior jailed? No, the American Chopper, Paul Senior, is not jailed. Paul Senior seemed ready to take control of Orange County Choppers in its entirety, making an effort to recover his son's shares. The only problem was that Paul Jr. wouldn't give up on the business he had worked so hard to build from the bottom up and wouldn't sell his 20% ownership position. At that time, Paul Sr. decided to sue his son for $1 million in damages. Paul Jr. was not going to take this lying down since he believed his father was pressuring him to leave OCC and that there was nothing he could do to give up his ownership stake in the garage. Paul Teutul Senior is unable to get around the legal system. He sued his son over the business conflict at the end of 2009. Following that, in December 2016, his restaurant idea was purportedly connected to a fraud scam. He made another court appearance in 2018 to dispute a fraud accusation. Teutul Senior reportedly destroyed a TV project, losing his business partner millions of dollars. Despite Senior's agreement to a $3 million investment for a share in the spin-off TV show Orange County Choppers, Thomas Derbyshire claimed that he had accepted sponsorships without giving his permission, postponed filming to go fishing, and utilized a portion of the investment funds to pay his son Michael Teutul a salary. In response to the allegations, Senior told his attorney that Derbyshire's interpretation of said events is without merit. In actuality, the Teutuls were Plan B. The creator of American Chopper said that his original plan was to base the program on another New Hampshire bike store. He believed they didn't have the right mindset, however, after speaking with them over the phone, so he modified his plans. After 2 days of filming with the Teutuls, Pelijan and his team discovered something else yet again. Our realization was that the program was not so much about constructing as it was about relationships. The interaction between the parent and the kid produced a bike. It was very well liked and appeared out of nowhere. According to him, it was the first family docusoap. Pelijan also said that he ultimately began modeling American Chopper after I Love Lucy, suggesting that the program was more of a comedy than a reality show, with each episode centering on distinct issues. I made the decision to simplify the loglines by just stating that Junior disappears. Mikey fails to appear. That turn became the main focus of our whole performance. Basic loglines. It served as the play's main source of inspiration, the man said, and production company ruins family for ratings was the tagline for the well-known chair-throwing breakdown. The Teutuls have battled addiction. Paul Teutul Senior written The Ride of a Lifetime, a book about his 15 years of drug and alcohol addiction, after his wife encouraged him to admit himself into recovery in 1985. As Teutul writes in the book, somehow, she talked me into going into rehab, something I thought I'd never do. However, I wanted to have one final delicious drink. I got very plastered the day before I was supposed to check myself into rehab. I had 6 Valium pills, a pint of whiskey, and half a gallon of wine. Even though Paul Sr. was eventually successful in giving up alcohol, Mikey and Paul Jr. struggled with drugs and alcohol throughout their early years. At 16, Paul Jr. entered a treatment facility. OCC closes its doors. Allegations that OCC has encountered financial difficulties and may be facing bankruptcy have afflicted the firm for the last several years. Since the final American Chopper program aired more than 5 years ago, it seems understandable that fans or media professionals could have been concerned when news leaked out that the company's Newburgh, New York offices were for sale. But as it happens, OCC just leases the facility. Even though OCC is going through its own difficulties, Paul Senior informed listeners on the local radio station WPTA that OCC's stability was unaffected by the building owner's foreclosure. Both Mikey and Senior agree that the organization's financial situation is not ideal. The legendary bike industry, in Senior's words, is in the pits and in the bottom of the hole. He attributes both his own financial incompetence and the skyrocketing overhead expenditures that accompanied the company's growth to American Chopper's success. But Senior notes that they're taking on whatever work they can get to pay the bills now that the program is finished and the large corporate contracts aren't coming in. Two such jobs include restoring garage finds and repairing quads, snowmobiles for his and cars. For the last 3 years, he has even depleted his own funds to cover his salary. This is only a suggestion, but there may be simple ways to save costs, such doing away with the indoor bowling alley. To me, that seems like a lot.